Okay, another location inside this warehouse. This is a wall of old skids, old wooden pallets just got knocked together. It's got kind of a rustic feel. So I'm not going to do anything fancy with the light. This doesn't call for smoke and ring flashes and hard edgy light. It's kind of got this older style kind of wood cabin feel, so I'm going to grace it with a nice light. And we're going to start with a 3-foot octa. As we saw in the studio yesterday, the 3-foot octa has punch and direction, but also a softness to it, has good fall off. It's a pretty light. It's a handy light. It's right in the middle of the game. It's not something huge like a 5 or 6 foot monster light, and neither is it a small source. So you have reasonable expectation of getting a beautiful portrait light out of a mid-sized kind of a light shaping tool. And that's what we'll start with now. Interesting to note, I use auto white balance a good deal because it's a good starting point. The camera's pretty smart. But I did notice already in my testing, the wood texture of this speaks to sort of a rustic kind of atmosphere, maybe old country, I don't know. Think of it as, this weathered aspect of this wood. And the auto white balance, given the light and the way it was reacting, seemed to turn that a little neutral, a little cool. So I changed my white balance to daylight. And it definitely warmed things up. I think a set like this looks better warm than slightly cool. Just as a bit of information, I'm in daylight white balance at this point. I segued out of auto. We have Orshi on the set, as always, which means it's a good day on the set because she's lovely. And she's putting up with me, which is even better. So let's do this. I'm going to make a quick snap. My light shaper is in the frame. I just want to get a general exposure, see how the light reacts with her and the environment, and then we'll make some moves off of that. Okay, Orshi, nothing special here. I'm just going to kind of test. Very pretty. Good exposure. I hesitate to say we're done, but it needs to be tailored a bit, finessed a bit, but basically the light is quite nice. It's a beautiful light for her. She has a lovely face, soft face, so I'm going to match that face with my light source. Okay, John, can we move this light a little bit? And let's go a longer lens, please. I'm going to grab a 70 to 200. Because right now I'm at a 24-70. I oftentimes start with a 24-70, kind of a mid-range lens, and I just make kind of an overall picture of the set. It's interesting to note some things that you see that might be problematic will be off the frame when you actually get your real lens on there, the one that you're going to use. But I like to shoot the whole scene because I want to see what the light does. It's just good information, if not for this set, then for down the road, to see how this light is going to play out over a surface like this. Let's feather the light, swing it this way, please. Reason I'm doing that is I'm putting her sort of out of the main flow of the light, because when you direct that light at a surface like that, even though the surface is not reflective at all, the left-hand side of my frame is definitely getting hotter than my right-hand side. And I think it's a little too much variance. So I feather the light. She'll still be in good light, but some of that left-hand side should come down in exposure value. Very pretty. Beautiful. And it does. It definitely does. Now the background tonality is relatively even, and I'm happy with that. It feels good. Now one could argue, one could say, like, the shadow side of her face is a little too steep, a little too dark, and I'd like a little more softness washed towards the background. So here's a thing that you can do. I'm going to take a manual flash and put it on the camera. So we'll just make sure it's manual. And I'm going to take that light and put it on a slave eye. Take it off of the radio and put it onto a slave eye. So John will swing that into a manual slave mode. So what's going to happen now is this light will pop, and it will also trigger that light. I'm going to leave that light power just the way it is. I'm going to leave my f-stop just as it is, f5.6. Now I'm going to throw this off the ceiling. This is a perfect ceiling to do this, okay? And this is just testing. You can just relax, Orshi. Pretty. And now I've got fill. okay? I still have shadow, but I've got fill. I think it's a little too much. I'm at 1/4, so I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to dip it that way, try again. That's a little better. I'm going to take it down now, power-wise, 1 stop. Pretty. Okay? And now it picks up and opens the shadow on the shadow side. This just minimal flick of light off the ceiling makes a difference. And I said it on the set yesterday, and I always say this, the definition of a good fill light is a light you don't notice until you shut it off. All right, cool. All right, you got to talk to your model. You got to like stay with them. It sounds ridiculous because, you know, I'm just chattering away at the camera, but you know, you have to maintain a human connection with the person in front of your lens. You know, even Orshi, who is a complete pro at this, likes encouragement. It helps, right? You know, you're not working in a vacuum. You know, we're shooting a video here, so we have a soundtrack going, so we don't have the benefit of having smoke or, you know, atmosphere and stuff like that. It's just one light, you know. We don't have music going and all that sort of stuff. So if I shut up, as inane as I sound, you know, when I'm just chattering away, if I shut up, this would be a tomb. And, you know, you gotta, you know, keep that going, right? Would you say? Yeah? All right. And that's the 3-foot octa.